Call the meeting to order. I invite you to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Kolpak. Here. Pepcorn.
Here.
Preston. Here. Strand.
Here.
Mahoney.
Here. Residents are encouraged to volunteer this summer at the Carlson Library Learning Garden plots. Sessions are weekly at 10 a.m. on Thursday mornings, weather permitting, and all ages are welcome to join in. The Jigsaw Puzzle Swap, Social and Swap will be on June 15th in Downtown Library starting at 9 a.m. The annual Summer Reading Challenge for all ages start with more than 1,600 readers for all ages already registered. Adventure begins at your library is the theme of this year, and participants are encouraged to read daily to complete challenges, earn badges, and win prizes. Planning. The first draft of the Fargo Growth Plan 2024 is available for review at the Fargo Growth Plan DOT organization. This site will contain a link for online forum to share comments, suggestions, edits, as well as previous project processes, documents, and resources. The comment period is open until June 21st. This is the first draft of the product of community feedback, open houses, community conversations, and stakeholder guidance, and lays out a plan for now and where Fargo should grow. The 5th annual Fargo Juneteenth 19th celebration, called Black to the Future Part 2, will begin on June 15th from noon to 6 p.m. on Broadway Square. The event, which is being organized by Fred's Dissonance in collaboration with the City of Fargo and North Dakota State University, commemorates the emancipation of African Americans and envisions a future rooted on unity and progress. Admission is free, and the afternoon will include an art exhibit showcasing historical documents, newspapers, media clippings, and there will be live performances with a hair show celebrating African American beauty, children's books readings, and bouncy houses and food. On May 30th, we hosted our annual employee recognition event where 136 employees with a combined 1,820 years of public service were honored. We have a short video to recap the event, which includes a hearing from 2 of the recognized employees about their career with the City of Fargo. We want to thank every member of the Fargo team for their passion and dedication every day for making us a regional leader.
It's crazy it's been that long. I started out with public health. I worked there in the medical lab for 10 years before moving to the water plant, and that's where I've been the last 10 years. With my chemistry background, with what I went to school for, it was just kind of a change that I was ready to make. I did the medical field long enough where I was ready to come and do more of the chemistry.
I got working in nursing because I came from a family of doctors, and my aunt was a nurse, and that was kind of inspiring to me, and so it just seemed like a natural thing for me to go into nursing. I wanted to help people. I think the biggest change that I've seen over the 25 years was when we did move from downtown to where we are right now located. It just seemed like a better fit because Fargo at the time was growing south, and I think it's been a more positive location.
The water treatment plant, we've added on the reverse osmosis plant, which doubled our facility size. It's kind of like learning your job all over again, learning where everything is at, and all the online instrumentation that have been brought in recently it's just made it more diverse. It's kind of fascinating. People don't realize the effort and the amount of manpower that goes into producing drinking water for the City of Fargo, but it impacts everyone on a daily basis, whether they're showering, drinking, preparing food, watering the lawn. Everybody is using water every day.
Over the course of my career, I've been able to work at public health in many different areas and have enjoyed and learned from many different experiences. But working with the TB clients is the most rewarding and the most interesting thing that I find, because not every day is the same day. You have to understand that when you come to public health, it is diverse, it is unique, but it is all about the people, and it's about trying to make an impact and trying to make a difference.
Perhaps some of you haven't seen the rules for the commission room, but basically we don't allow signs and flags. Appreciate in the past you've been very respectful of the rules of this house. If you choose not to be respectful, you can be charged with trespassing. We're going to just take it as maybe people didn't quite understand the rules, but we have asked people not to do signs and flags in the room. So I'm disappointed that you don't want to follow the rules. Is there a motion to approve the order agenda? Is there a motion to approve the order? We're not going to disrupt the meeting.
Time, place, manner, that's a First Amendment violation.
Is there a motion to approve the order agenda?
I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Okay, motion carried. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the May 28, 2024 regular meeting, changing item 11F from the Horse Race North Dakota at Edgewood Tavern to read North Dakota Horse Race Foundation at Edgewood Tavern? Is there a motion?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda items 1 through 39?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Kolpak.
Aye.
Preston.
Aye.
Pepcorn.
Aye.
Strand.
Yes.
Mahoney.
Aye. Regular agenda recommendation to appoint Jennifer Fowle for the position of Director of the Fargo Cass Public Health. Brenda Daring to explain and Jennifer to come forward.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. I'm really excited to be standing in front of you with Jen Fowle. In preparing for the retirement of Desi Fleming, our Cass Public Health Director, the search, we had a national search and had 26 applicants. From there, we interviewed 6 virtually and then got down to 4 finalists. After our interview of the 4 finalists, Jennifer Fowle has come at the forefront of the selection committee, so I'm standing here very excited to be able to present to her today to the commission for appointment. She's got over 15 years of work in the healthcare industry. She's got her master's degree in social work and is currently working on her PhD. So it is with great pleasure for me to recommend Jen Fowle for the appointment of Fargo Cass Public Health Director.
Do I have a motion?
I am thrilled to make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Preston.
Aye.
Kolpak.
Aye.
Pepcorn.
Aye.
Strand.
Yes.
Mahoney.
Aye. Welcome aboard. We're looking forward to your first report.
Thank you very much.
Do we want to allow, Jennifer, do you want to say anything?
I wasn't sure if I had. I just appreciate the opportunity to get to serve the community and Cass County in a different way. I had been working in the behavioral health realm for the last 27 years in Fargo, and as a leader of the behavioral health side of Prairie St. John's for 10 years prior to leaving, and now doing statewide initiatives. So looking to rein that into Fargo specifically and Cass County more broadly, and working with all of you.
Thank you. Item 41, applications for abatement or refund of taxes, number 4560 and number 4561 for property located at 1019 4th Avenue South, requesting a reduction of value from $156,800 to $99,500 for 2022, and a reduction of value of $167,800 to $99,500 for 23. Stack is recommending a reduction in values to $99,500 for both 22 and 23. Mike Sobolewski to explain.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. So this is another one of those properties where we haven't been able to get into it for at least 10 years and possibly more. So we haven't been able to get into it and verify what's going on, if they've done any kind of modifications to the property. They did pull a permit to do extensive work on the house back in 2020, but again, we haven't been able to get into it until just recently. We had an appeal during the Board of Equalization this year, and we were actually able to get into it. Our appraiser was able to go and look at it and verify that the house had been gutted. And we, believe that it was for the last 2 years, as probably when they took out the permit, that was probably the initial step that they took. So we are simply just saying, recommending that we do reduce the value for the last 2 years to that, for the work that was done.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion, Commissioner Strand?
Thank you, Mike. I'm just curious if, how long does the permit call for this rehab to be completed?
I believe that's an inspections questions, but I believe that they're for 6 months initially, but it might be 1 year. That's not a question for
So
the assessor.
is it safe to assume after the gutting is no longer the case and it's rehabbed, it will be revisited as it's completed and brought back up to the level it should be as a completed structure?
Something along those lines. So I believe we do have a number of these projects out there where they're doing them as they can get to them or as they can afford to do the jobs. And I believe with the permitting process, they can reissue the permit if they call in and, talk to inspections about that. And so what we do is we keep them open for as long as we can until we verify that something has happened. But a lot of times when they get strung out this long, it gets very difficult to tell exactly what's going on.
And the last thing I'll say is it's good to see homes rehabbed. We don't want to discourage that. We just have to keep our eye on it.
Yep.
Any other discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Kolpak.
Aye.
Preston. Pepcorn.
Aye.
Strand.
Yes.
Mahoney.
Aye. Public hearing. It's a continue to 6/24/24. A hearing to reconsider a renewal plan and development agreement with the JS2L partners. They would like to move that back to June 24th. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Strand.
Yes.
Pepcorn.
Aye.
Preston.
Aye.
Kolpak.
Aye.
Mahoney.
Aye. Item 43. The application filed by Precision Dental Laboratories for property tax exemption to be located at 1841 Cheyenne Loop North, which the application will use primarily for light manufacturing purposes. Jim Gilmore to explain.
As you noted, this is a request for a 5-year property tax exemption from Precision Dental. It comes to you with a recommendation of approval from the Economic Development Incentives Committee. Locations shown here on the map, there's I-29 here, 19th Avenue North, and the Horse Park, so it's out in the Cheyenne Loop area. I'll have Ryan Oshheim come up and talk a little bit about the business, and then members of the business are also here, and I'll have them introduce themselves. Ryan?
Thank you. Ryan Ossheim with the Greater Fargo-Moorhead Economic Development Corporation. Here to comment on the economic impact of this request and the company that's expanding. Precision Dental Labs, primary sector company engaged in precision manufacturing of dental implants, which is kind of an artistry, a blend of kind of traditional manufacturing, but also an artistic element to it, handcrafted. Company operating since 1985. They've been operating out of a downtown facility here on Broadway. And if you're familiar with the building, it's not necessarily conducive for the type of work that they're doing, the additional staff that they're adding, a lot of up and down movement in the stairs that they have to traverse currently. And so this is a true expansion. They're currently operating out of 9,000 square feet. And so this will be an expansion to 15,000 square feet with room for future expansion, as well as this company's hitting an inflection point and growing their business enterprise. So this will help them take advantage of what's currently a ceiling on their growth. So good paying jobs, a sizable project, positions over $31 an hour, adding 2 positions next year and 6 positions by year 2. So here today to talk about the company and the project itself is Ian Johnson, who's Vice President at Precision Dental. So I'd ask him to come up and make a few comments and answer any questions that you have.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ian Johnson. As Ryan stated, I'm the Vice President at Precision. I've been there for 15 years. Know the company pretty well, so hopefully I can paint a little bit better picture of what a dental laboratory is, because I don't assume that that's super common knowledge. PDL has been around as a dental appliance manufacturing company. It was founded in '85, like Ryan said. Specializes in custom dental implant, crown and bridge, and removable restorations. We grew in '85 from a one-man operation, a traditional mom and pop shop, to about roughly 40 employees right now. These employees come from a diverse background of expertises, but all come together to utilize state-of-the-art CAD design, CNC milling, 3D printing, as well as maybe the more analog, traditional, artistic, hands-on approaches. This project, I just want to paint an idea or paint a picture a little bit of how this would help what we're currently looking at in our situation downtown. Over the last decade, we've steadily grown, and through that growth, we've been really, really fortunate and really lucky to recruit from all over. When I say all over, I mean we have staff members and team members who used to call San Diego, Havana, Cuba, Seoul, South Korea, Mexico City, Salt Lake City, called all those places home, and we were able to bring them here, get them on board and see the vision of Precision, and now they call Fargo home. Buying homes here, raising families. That steady growth, though, has meant our current facility at 6 Broadway really no longer suits our day-to-day operations. In a lot of ways has really interrupted our growth potential. If anyone's familiar with manufacturing, you can imagine a building built in the 1900s and operating on 2 floors is maybe not conducive to the most lean manufacturing principles. We've attempted to renovate a lot, a few times here, but every single time that we get to the end of that renovation, we've either grown more and then outgrown the space that we have spent this time and money rehabbing, or we've realized that all we really did was borrow from one end of the building and robbed another end of the building. So our research has shown that moving into a larger facility, a 1-floor facility, specifically designed for our intentions, would not only change the production, but just the overall efficiency immediately. Would allow us to focus on facilitating growth, focus on our recruitment processes, and advancing our automation in general. With that being said, as Ryan mentioned, this is a true expansion, going from roughly 9,000 to 15,000. The facility that we're looking at would allow us to add an additional 5,000 square feet to 20,000 if the growth gets to that point. This would allow us to bring on employees that we could then truly engage with and train and work up, obviously creating more of those jobs, but also growing their wages, as well as providing our customers a higher level of expertise, more technology, and just an overall more efficient process of getting them the product. If you have any questions, I'm obviously open to answering them, giving more clarity on something maybe that I haven't touched on.
Any questions from the commission? I think we're good.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Preston.
for Jim. Jim, since some of us don't see the scoring criteria very frequently, can you remind us, it looks like that 2 jobs by year 1 and then 6, a total of 6 by year 3, and the difference in the point system. Can you talk a little bit about the point system and what is the usual range for saying, yeah, this project meets the criteria?
I think the first 2 jobs, I'm looking at it, might be a little higher paying than the ones that come a little bit later, and so that's the reason. But we like to have the applicant score more than 100 points, and so this is a 155 and 125, so they meet that criteria. And again, the kind of jobs that we're trying to create in Fargo that have that higher paying, so people can easily afford housing.
If I could do a follow-up, is there any anywhere where the dollar figure for the exemption is related to the jobs created? Am I missing that somewhere?
Yeah, one of the scoring criteria is the value of the building, but I don't think there's a direct tie to the value of the exemption to the number of jobs. it's kind of, at least, in the mathematical equation.
Okay, thank you.
And it comes with the recommendation of approval based on his scores.
So anyone present who wishes to speak to this property tax exemption? Is there anyone present who wishes to speak? If not, I close the public hearing. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Pepcorn?
Aye.
Colpack?
Aye.
Preston?
Aye.
Strand?
Yes.
Mahoney?
Aye. And 44, Community Development Block Grant and Home Investment Partnerships 2024 Action Plan, proposed amendments to the 2023 HUD Action Plan, proposed amendments to the 2020-2024 HUD Consolidated Plan, and proposed amendments to Citizen Participation Plan. Nicole Crutchfield to explain.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. The main item in front of you tonight is the 2024 Action Plan. Now that the federal government has done their appropriations for community development block grant dollars and home program dollars, we can now allocate those per our application process that opened last fall. And the subrecipients that we are proposing were notified of their grantee status early this year, but then we're kind of on hold until the congressional appropriations happens, which just occurred. And so now we're in a 30-day review process for our 2024 action plan proposal, which includes the last year of our 5-year consolidated plan. And these are goals that we have set as part of that 5-year process way back 5 years ago, so we're in that last year. And it relates to awarding projects related to the YWCA emergency shelter facility improvements, a housing project with Beyond Shelter, High Plains Fair Housing Center as a staff person stationed in Fargo, and then administration dollars for our office, as well as Downtown Engagement Center with the neighborhood response team that they're out doing right now as part of 2023 activities. So these are the proposals based on the grant applications we received. This is, we're in the last few weeks of the public hearing process. And so in front of you also tonight is some, I would say, minor amendments of the 2023 action plan and our consolidated action plan. I won't go through these unless you have more questions related to these, but generally it's overages or underages of past projects, and we put those back into the 2024 program dollars. And then every few years, per federal rules, we like to update our citizen participation plan. Basically, the main thing we're adding is item number 2, as we do our year-end CAPER, year-end reporting requirements that will be due later this summer. We have added a public hearing process as part of that process. So be glad to answer any questions or open it up for a public hearing.
Any questions from the commissioners? Commissioner Strand?
Thank you. Nicole, I'm just curious what the future looks like for HUD grants and CWDG and federal funds. How's it looking?
About the same, I would say. The rules and regulations are increasingly harder to implement. And so the gap funding that is needed by recipients is more and more stringent and hard to find. And so you'll see probably the awardees that you see in this list are probably folks that are used to working with federal dollars or added funding with other things. And so it's honestly a little dismal. And so if you've talked to me lately, you'll see us getting a little depressed as related to that activity.
Is there anyone from the public who wants to speak to the block grants? Anybody in the public wishes to speak? We'll close the public hearing. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Is there a second?
I'll second it, and then I have a question.
Preston?
So the $140,000 that goes into planning and administration, I know we've had discussion about this before, that if the city was able to absorb this into our general fund budget, that would be available for additional projects. Does that $140,000 reflect actual costs, or is that like a percentage of the grant, or what is that? How do you get there?
So, which, are you looking at the slide that's in front of you right now?
Yeah, the planning administration line items, those 2 line items. Haven't we
Yes.
talked about moving, if possible, moving those into the general fund budget so
And
that?
those are so the staffing is in the general fund now. This 97 and 40,000 are actually going back out to grantees and not just our office. So therefore, it's the category of funding to support. So for instance, paying for environmental reviews and other types
Okay,
of
okay.
elements. So they're not necessarily going to the city of
It's not
Fargo.
staffing.
Yeah,
not
it's just a
internal staffing.
category that HUD uses for that type of activity.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Any other discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Strand,
Yes.
Preston,
Aye.
Pepcorn,
Aye.
Colpack,
Aye.
Mahoney.
Aye. Item 45, recommendation for approval of the items from the FAR staff meeting. Susan Thompson to explain.
Hello, Commissioners. Yes, number 45 is from the kind of high level from the FAR staff meeting on June 3rd with some fairly routine items. The first one was the sales tax update. When I was here previously, we had seen a drop in sales tax, and I kind of explained it, and it did get proved out with the next month. We see a big swing. The other items are a fairly routine, a budget adjustment for the purchase of trucks, shifting some money around, extending a contract for ice for the winter, accepting a grant for FEMA for the December ice storm. So basically recovering our expenses up to, I think it was about $166,000. And then the last item was a workforce development partnership agreement with University of Mary for our staff so they could get a bit of a scholarship if they go back for continuing education, which we felt would be, beneficial for the employee, but also for the city as well. So we bring these with the endorsement of FAR.
Any questions of Susan? Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Pepcorn, Colpack.
Aye.
Strand,
Yes.
Preston.
Aye.
Mahoney.
Aye. Construction update, Tom Knockquist to explain.
Good evening. Happy to be here to provide the first construction update from Engineering of the Year. First of all, no safety incidents have been reported on any of our projects. Just for the public's benefit, here's where they can always find more information. Online at fargostreets.com, on Facebook or X, formerly Twitter. We do have some projects that have wrapped up already, a couple new development projects, citywide crack fill, and some carryover demolition projects from last year. Quite a few ongoing rehab and reconstruction projects, starting with First Avenue South near Bell Bank. Our contractor will be finishing the sidewalk adjacent to Bell Bank at the corner of First Avenue and Broadway. 7th Street North, Phase 1 between 7th and 8th Avenue underground is complete, and they've started the process of paving that roadway. Phase 2 between 8th and 9th, they're currently working on underground installation. NP Avenue, I know the chief mentioned he's seen some activity out there today. They've started to set up traffic control, planning on pavement removals this week and underground following with a start next week. 9th Street South, Phase 1 underground roadway pavement is complete. Grading boulevards and final stabilization is in progress. And Phase 2 underground is complete, and they're currently working on the roadway. In Phase 3, they'll be working on removals and underground here soon. Next project, Southwood Crest Drive North. They're still working on the installation of the underground, but have also started working on the roadway grading there. First Street North, still in Phase 1, installing underground, and we'll start working on the roadway yet this week. One thing I'll mention as I'm kind of going through this, we have had a lot of rain recently, and so contractors are they've certainly been impacted by that, and there's likely to be some change orders that we process with that. Continuing on rehab and recon projects, 30th Avenue South. This was an emergency sewer repair that popped up last week. The underground is complete and the final placement of the pavement happened today. And I believe that closure was potentially taken off yet today. Asphalt mill and overlay, this is a citywide contract. Contractors working in multiple sections across the city, working on mud jacking and replacement of curb and gutter. And they have started working on some resurfacing of the asphalt pavement. This one, draw your attention to 42nd Street over I-94. We are starting a bridge rehab project. It started today, and that will, I think traffic control is going up today, but that will start a 60-day closure of 42nd Street Bridge over I-94. 32nd Avenue South concrete rehab. This project is both on 45th and 32nd, only work on 32nd at this time. Phase 1 began today, and that reduced traffic to 1 lane in each direction on 32nd, and they're working on concrete pavement panel replacement as part of that. Citywide concrete sidewalk repair, contractors working in multiple locations, and again, as part of this project, they're repairing damaged sidewalks and installing missing sidewalks throughout the city. Traffic signal maintenance, again, just a citywide contract. Project's about 70% complete. Another citywide project would be our pavement marking replacement project, which is ongoing. Switching to new development projects, 45th Street north of 19th Avenue North, underground roadway grading are complete. They're going to be working on trimming for concrete pavement yet this week. 46th Avenue North, working on underground, Alexander Drive, which is northwest corner of I-29 52nd. They're working on underground installation there. Continuing on new development, 52nd Avenue, have some cool pictures to show of that, but working on roadway grading east of Cheyenne. They've performed one concrete pour of the bridge deck so far. We'll be doing another one this week. Another thing to note here, likely in the next week, potentially 2 weeks, the roundabout at the intersection of 52nd Avenue and Cheyenne will close soon. And again, the contractor will have 45 days to complete that work. Red River Shared Use Path. This is an exciting one to see. A new path along our Great River corridor. The path itself is complete and they're working on installing some benches and trash receptacles. I think almost the final one, flood risk management side. We have a couple lift station projects going on. This is lift station 4748 near 38th Street and Drain 27. Lift station 47 was previously completed and they're working on the pouring the lower walls of lift station 48. I have some pictures coming up of that. We have a few projects that we've heard rumors from our contractors that they'll probably be starting up soon, but we don't have an exact date, but I'll provide future updates on those. Just an example of our mill and overlay project. This is on Broadway, just south of 12th Avenue North. As I mentioned, 45th Street north of 19th Avenue. This picture is a little bit old. At this point, they have the roadway fully gravelled, like I said, ready to start trimming for concrete pavement. 52nd Avenue, the picture in the lower left, this is looking eastbound just this last week, and you can see the amount of water kind of standing within the work zone, but also in that field in the top right corner of the picture. And then the bridge deck itself, you can see the reinforcement steel. Again, this was last week prior to one of their first bridge deck pours. And then the Red River Shared Use Path, you can see that they're still working on grading along the path when we took these pictures last week, and finally constructing that lower level of lift station 48. With that, happy to answer any questions.
Any questions of Tom? Commissioner Strand?
Thank you, Tom. I'm just curious, for the sake of the people in the community, if you have a sidewalk that's deteriorating in front of your property or on your property, there's ways of doing that. You can reach out and ask for help, or you can have that. How does that work, and how do people get a sidewalk addressed if they have concerns with safety in their own space?
That's a great question. One of the easiest ways is to go to the City of Fargo website and go to the Fargo One app. You can submit that complaint, and so if it's not your property, that's probably the easiest way to do it. We within engineering then reach out to the property owner. Sidewalks are the responsibility of the adjacent property owner. So they're provided a notice, and they have the opportunity to hire a licensed contractor to perform that work. Or if they don't want to do that, we add it to our citywide contract, and they do get assessed for that work.
Thank you. It's a great program.
if there's a city structure in there, a sewer cap or something on there that it's cracking concrete around that, is that the homeowner's responsibility or the city's?
I would say we typically look at that on a more case by case to see if it's something we did. If it's something related to a project, we certainly stand behind those repairs.
Some neighbors asked that. Any other questions of Tom? Good report, like the safety. Appreciate it. Item 47, request the state of Wisconsin for Fargo PD personnel assistance. Chief Sobolski to explain.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, commissioners. Back in last June 23, our department received a request from the city of Milwaukee to assist with a national security event. This is an Interstate Emergency Management Assistance Compact that came from them to assist with crowd management personnel in Milwaukee, July 13th through the 19th, to help police the Republican National Convention. Since that time, I advised the mayor and city administrator that we would intend on assisting in this effort based on an evaluation of our crowd management staff and what we could support. Our staff have been working on that since that time, as well as the city attorney, working all the legal aspects out with the state of Wisconsin, and ultimately through the state of North Dakota Department of Emergency Services, who manages all of the interstate emergency assistance compacts. At this time, we are requesting approval to send 15 of our crowd management personnel to Milwaukee for this event. These are volunteer participants from our crowd management team. All of their costs, personnel, overtime, benefits are reimbursed by the state of Wisconsin through this Interstate Emergency Management Assistant Compact, which has also been reviewed and approved by the city attorney's office. We've evaluated our staffing for this period of time, and I've been informed by our command staff that they are able to support this without any additional overtime or other measures. And that also, not only are we assisting an agency and a state that assisted our state in Fargo during the DAPL protests, but the value, the experience, and the knowledge that our crowd management personnel will get from this participation and be able to bring back to our department and our city, I think is invaluable, especially in our current political climate, in which we anticipate probably a chippy election period through the end of the year. And we're also a state in which our governor is a potential vice presidential nominee, and I would anticipate as a police chief that if that happens, that will bring even more potential activity to the state of North Dakota and the city of Fargo. And I think what is brought back from this will be very helpful for the rest of our team and our department. I'm happy to entertain any questions on that.
Any questions of the chief? Mr. Preston.
So the individuals that volunteer for this, is it their regularly scheduled days and hours so that they're not doing this on their days off, or are they?
They are working, as per the agreement, they'll be on 12-hour shifts, and they'll be integrating in with all the other resources in Milwaukee. They will still be working within their normal work period of hours, but it'll be different shifts than what they would normally work if they were here in Fargo. And they'll be deployed from that perspective. And so any, as I said, additional overtime or benefits, that's all reimbursable.
Any other questions? Mr. Kolpak.
I have a couple comments, I guess. I've really struggled with this issue at this time, heading into the busiest time of the year for our police department into the summer months. Also understanding some of the recent, requests for additional personnel to serve the citizens of Fargo, both in traffic issues, but also other safety concerns that have been brought to our attention recently. I know that we also have some current openings following recent retirements, and it's one of the busier times of the year for vacations. So I'm having a hard time understanding. I understand the expertise that can be garnered there, but I also see it maybe as introducing some unnecessary risk as part of this, and sending 15 officers for 9 days, even though it's reimbursed, at a time when we've had public commentary about the need for additional local presence by the police department. I
I'm really having a hard time supporting this request.
Sure, and I appreciate those concerns. It's actually a 7-day, including travel, a 7-day stint, 13th to the 19th. And the issues, in fact, that we're going to be talking about the next agenda item, the traffic and those other concerns, are really separate from this particular issue. We wouldn't take these 15 people and have them work additional shifts on traffic enforcement. Those issues have to do with reconstitution of our traffic safety team and some other legislative requests that we're going to be discussing here shortly that would help us with additional tools on that particular issue. But I do understand your concerns, and I've discussed this with my staff. We've been looking at this for over a year, and they have informed me that they are confident in our staffing plan and our ability to send these folks. They also feel very strongly that what's going to be learned here will be very valuable to the rest of our team and our city.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Preston.
If I could just add to Commissioner Kolpak's comments. In fact, I just had a question about this today, is if we can afford to send 15 staff, and by afford, I mean spread out the resources in staffing. Why are we not able to monitor the speeding and the car racing more frequently and in a better way?
Sure. Well, this is a short-term situation in which we are moving staff around to different shifts to help fill the gaps of the people that are leaving. We do participate in additional traffic enforcement efforts. That may be on overtime either through a grant or through our Justice Assistant Grant funds. So that's still ongoing, but in terms of the traffic, that's a much larger, regular, persistent issue that this 6 days away won't affect one way or the other in terms of our ability to do that. That's something in which we need a regular presence and additional boots on the ground every day of the week to work with that.
Mr. Strand.
Thank you, Chief. This topic of mutual aid isn't new to us. We've seen it numerous times. For example, DAPL. We had an immense deployment to DAPL when the Standing Rock protests were going on, and others. And the last thing, other thing I'll say is there's North Dakota delegates there and Fargo residents that will be there in that city. We owe them our support if we can deliver it. And I can't imagine us, if when the time comes with us needing mutual aid, I can't imagine others having been refused us later giving us support or easily doing it. So I understand. I think we owe the state and the country this support.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Preston.
If I could do a follow-up, please. But you have to understand the public and how they're viewing this. And, yes, recognizing that the speeding issue is a longer term, it needs a consistent approach, but we're in the middle of summer where the speeding is going to be even more of an issue. And as I understand, the traffic safety unit isn't going to be available till fall now. So just understanding that the perception of the public is an issue here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that the commission has to be comfortable with this request, obviously. And we've had those same discussions and those same concerns. But from our perspective, we feel like for this short period of time, that we will have it covered. And the other issues that are most concerning to the public, we've done a lot of outreach and messaging on that. We've got a lot of positive response in terms of support for some of the legislative ideas that we're going to be discussing in the next agenda item. And I don't think that understanding those fears that we should forego this opportunity to gain that experience and also help a partner that helped us previously under a similar situation, that we should negate that benefit as a result of this longer term issue that we're also trying to fix. And I guess that would be my perspective on it.
Mr. Strand.
Thank you, Chief. I'm just curious, we had a delegation go to Washington, D.C. to honor fallen officers. We had quite a contingency, didn't we, from Fargo?
Yes. Yeah, because of our community, we sure did, yeah.
Remind me how many went and if there were any impacts to our service levels while they were gone.
We had 62 personnel there. Again, by virtue of those outstanding community donations, that again was a short tenure as well. about the same time allotment. And we, again, managed our staffing to cover that in that short-term situation by, again, it's not just the volunteers that are going, but we have people that have also volunteered to move around to cover some of those shifts for that short duration. And that's just something that we do on a regular basis when things like this come up.
Mr. Strand,
May I make the recommended motion?
is there a second?
Second.
Second. Any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Strand,
Yes.
Pepcorn,
Aye.
Preston, Kolpak,
No.
Mahoney,
Aye. Item 48, presentation dangerous driving and loud muffler noises. Chief Sabowski.
You got it? Okay, thank you. This is a follow-up from, I believe, the last meeting in April where the commission requested a report out relative to options on dangerous driving and loud and illegal exhaust systems. As you may recall, about a year ago, last June, we gave a similar presentation, myself and our current Assistant City Administrator, Brenda Daring, about engineering and police options and issues relative to the same topic. We've, again, met with the City Attorney's Office and brainstormed some additional options. So I'm going to start out with just an update on what we've been doing and where we're at, along with some suggestions, and then turn it over to Assistant City Attorney Ian McLean, who has put together some potential ideas that the commission for you to consider in terms of what you would like to support or efforts that you may want to engage in to provide the police department with some additional enforcement tools that I think we need to be more effective in this area. To start with, so I'll be covering patrol enforcement efforts, update on the traffic safety team. Our staffing and facilities management plan, just for your referential knowledge, is online on our website, and that also contains information relative to staffing and facilities. Our legislative options, and we'll go into this a little more in depth, but violation fees, increasing those, our fleeing vehicle owner liability bill, the nuisance vehicle discussion, traffic camera enforcement, and increased fine and penalty options. As we currently sit, our officers are making a lot of traffic stops, as many as they can in between their calls for service. We know that we do need additional staff overall, long-term going forward, which we proposed in our budget request. So we've covered that. And last year we did get approved for the grant to reestablish our traffic safety team. So that grant was awarded in October of '23, and meaning for the next fiscal year. In January of '24, we hired sufficient positions to fill that, and those folks are currently in field training right now. So they graduated the academy. Once they complete field training, which will be late August, we will be able to take 6 experienced individuals and reconstitute the traffic safety team and go from there. Just a couple of heat maps in terms of traffic stop activity. So the left one is total traffic stops for 2023. The yellow and the reds are in intensified activity, and you can see many of the main corridors where we have a lot of our substantial issues with dangerous driving and the vehicle noise and things of that nature. There's a lot of activity through May of this year. That's the map on the right. And again, we're continuing to try and concentrate in those areas. We also explored trying to use a statute to get registration suspended for those with illegal or loud mufflers who did not fix the violation. And so in North Dakota, if you issue a fix-it ticket, there's so much time for them to fix the problem. If they don't and they get stopped again, they can get another citation. Ultimately, the department can request the state to suspend their license because they haven't fixed the violation. This is a very long, kind of bureaucratic process that also requires that same vehicle being stopped. And then once it happens, we have to find them again before we can find them driving an unregistered car. So we've done this in one occasion so far. And I think maybe with the traffic safety team, we could be a little more effective, but I don't know if this is a real effective statute as written. We've continued with our overtime enforcement efforts, and there will be more of those throughout the summer as well, which is a mix of grant money and overtime money and partnerships with Cass County and the Highway Patrol. You may have noticed about 2 or 3 weeks ago, we worked with the Highway Patrol on a DUI checkpoint operation. So again, this is part of that continual relationship and partnership. They've come in and assisted with downtown enforcement as well as this enhanced traffic enforcement where they brought their plane in and helped us with that particular issue, mostly because of the vehicles that flee the officers quite often. Violation fees, I think we've talked about this last legislative session, and the dangerous driving related offenses are still very nominal in cost. The speeding fines are not significant enough as well to have any deterrent factor whatsoever. And so that's one of the observations and things that we would request some assistance with is working on some legislative efforts. And I know Ian's got some suggestions that will bolster not only the penalty for those who aren't going to follow that law, but I think there'd be a large deterrent factor if it was going to cost someone more than $50 or what have you. The next item, observation-wise, is in some instances, especially those that have these illegal operating systems, the vehicle themselves is actually a nuisance. And some communities have seized vehicles under this particular scheme. Last year, I think we may have talked briefly about Wheat Ridge, Colorado. It might even been someone from the commission that, asked about that particular ordinance. At that time, I contacted the Wheat Ridge commander, and they had just put that ordinance in place. I contacted him again last week, so a year later. In his assessment of it, now it's obviously a smaller city, about 37,000 roughly, but he said it was significant in changing the driving behavior. They did seize one vehicle in that year time and went through a number of other legal processes regarding nuisance in which either people fixed it or it was handled in another fashion. But in talking to him about a week or so ago, he said the deterrent factor has drastically reduced this issue in their community, and he thought it was effective. Again, it's 1 year of that particular ordinance in place. Something like that I think would be not a bad idea to consider if we could get the right legislative support to allow that. Clean vehicles continues to be a significant issue for our troops. And again, we're making a lot of stops, but we got a significant amount of them who don't stop. And that not only endangers the public when they speed off, but again, we're not able to enforce some of the things that we'd like to enforce. The owner liability law that we proposed last year was designed similar to a law in Wisconsin, and it really allows for the owner to provide law enforcement with who the identity of the driver at the time that the fleeing occurred. It's a non-criminal fine if the owner decides that they don't want to tell us because maybe it was them and they don't want to say I fled the police. I think we all understand that. But as the owner of the vehicle, they have a responsibility for the vehicle and they would receive a non-criminal fine. That made it through the Senate unanimously, and we lost in the House by about, 24 votes. So again, we feel that we've got pretty good support to bring that back around. I think there was some misinformation on the House side last year that led to that final vote. But if you look at the data, in 2023, we had 256 vehicles flee our stops. 85% of those people that fled are not stolen vehicles, and that's 1 every 34 stops that flees. 2022, we had 230, again, 78% of them not stolen. You look below there, in 2023, 56% of those vehicles that fled, we've got the license plate information. It's not a question about who the owner is, and they're not stolen. Same thing this year in 24, we're seeing, again, we've already got through April, 84 cars that have fled, 85% not stolen, 61% we've got the license plate information. We simply really don't have any legal leverage to encourage the owner to provide that name or to remedy that with our non-criminal fine. So we would request some support for that again going forward in the next legislative session. And I think this is where I turn it over to Ian and maybe take questions at the end.
So the first thing I want to talk about is the need to increase the penalties for speeding, for racing, drag racing, exhibition driving in the city of Fargo. So exhibition driving, what that really means is unnecessary noise. So if you think of a loud muffler, you think of tires squealing, that's what exhibition driving is in both the state of North Dakota and the city of Fargo. The fine is $50. Racing and drag racing, the fine is $100. Those are the same as they are at the state. State law 40-0506 does allow some non-traffic citations to be doubled. So speeding, running a red light, running a stop sign, those are able to go from $20 to $40 in the city of Fargo. And every opportunity Fargo's had to double the fine, it has. Unfortunately, the state does not allow us to double exhibition driving, racing, and drag racing. So those are still $50 and $100. So one thing we'd like to see at the legislative session is, one, for just them to increase those from 50 and 100 upwards. Second would be to allow us to actually double those fines ourselves. And then third is maybe an escalation clause. If you get caught with exhibition driving 3 times in a year, even if it's $50, maybe then it's $100, then $200 for your third violation. It shouldn't continue to be $50 every single time you get caught. In a perfect world, though, there's 3 types of violations in the city of Fargo that a municipality can have. There's Class B misdemeanors, so that's punishable by 30 days in jail or a $1,500 fine or both. So that's reckless driving. There's criminal infractions. That's no jail time, but up to a $1,000 fine. And then there's non-criminal citations, which is a set penalty, which is what the city commission does. So that's exhibition driving, racing. In a perfect world, I think we'd have the state say for at least exhibition driving, racing, and drag racing, make those infractions. So allow the city to go up to $1,000. What that would do is it would give the court the ability, if someone comes in with a vehicle that is non-compliant, the judge could say, I'm going to give you a $1,000 fine, but I'll suspend $900 of it as long as you repair your muffler within 60 days. As long as the person repairs their muffler within 60 days, the fine would be $100 or whatever it makes it up. And they wouldn't not have to pay the next $900. So that would be, I think that would give the court a lot of discretion. The other good thing is, not all racing is the same. It's all bad, but if you're racing on an empty street, 2 of you at 3 a.m., it's not the same as racing down 52nd Avenue during 5 o'clock rush hour. So to allow the courts and the prosecution at least to say, hey, this racing's worse than next. This one shouldn't be $100. This one should be $500. So I think we need to go to the legislature and at least ask for some of these to become infractions, but at least higher the fines.
If I could ask
Commissioner Preston.
a clarifying question there. So back up once. Are you saying that recategorizing would require state law change, or can we do that here now?
It requires state law change.
Okay.
As you may know, if you have a license in North Dakota, if you get up to 12 points, your license gets suspended. So as soon as you hit the 12 point, your license gets suspended in North Dakota for a period of time. So exhibition driving is 3 points. Reckless, which is a Class B misdemeanor, so you could go to jail for 30 days or a $1,500 fine, is 8 points. Going 26 miles per hour over, depending whether you're on the interstate or not, is 9 or 10 points. So I don't think it makes much sense that a non-criminal citation going 26 miles per hour or over is more points on your license than reckless. Reckless behavior we see is almost always worse than going 26 miles per hour over. So we'd like to see reckless hired at the state level. I think that would be deterrent. Racing is 10 points, so at least get it up to 10, preferably 12. So if you get caught for reckless driving, at least your license suspended. It's suspended for 1 week for each point over 11. So it's not a long-term suspension.
Just Ian, would you be clear, what is the present law?
The present law, so the state sets how many points it goes against your license.
So
that would
when
take
you
legislative
said
change.
racing, it's worth how many points now?
Racing's 10.
It is, okay.
Reckless is 8. Going 26 miles per hour is 9 to 10, depending whether you're on the interstate or not on the interstate. The chief's already talked about fleeing. I think we're all alarmed if we have 5 to 6 people fleeing every single week in the city of Fargo. There needs to be some sort of change there. Photo radar, obviously this brings a lot of complications to it, cost, personnel, but 18 states do use photo radar for either speeding or red light. Not expressly prohibited by North Dakota, but would likely still need state law change. And you still have the same issue of how do you identify the driver, so we'd probably need some sort of presumption that it is whoever is the registered owner, and then they could have the ability to say, no, it wasn't me, it was the chief. The chiefs talked about seizing nuisance vehicles and sort of the prolonged process we have at the state level. So the one thing I'm going to talk about today that the city can actually do without needing state law change is right now Article 1104, that deals with the nuisance abatement of unlawful vehicles. But really what we have, the way it's written right now, is to deal with junk automobiles and abandon. So we could draft in the manner, though, that if you have a non-compliant vehicle, which a court declares as a public nuisance, the city could abate that nuisance, meaning take the vehicle, repair the vehicle and charge back the cost. It would take some change to 1104. We'd probably have to put some due process mechanisms in there, but that'd be the one change that I think the city could do in the near term before we get to the next legislative session. With that, I think we'll take any questions.
Any questions? Mr. Preston?
So I think all of us are hearing from the public, and this has been going on for 3 years. We have to move forward with something so that people begin to understand that we're responding to their concerns. I understand fully you need some state law changes, but we've got to figure out some local tools that can be used. Now, as I understand, there's some potential with the point system licenses being suspended. If you stop someone, and it was brought to my attention today, somebody got stopped and then there was tinted windows that got an additional violation, and something about his license plate was an additional violation, and pretty soon those build up and are some significant violations to be able to at least suspend a license or cause an insurance premium to go up. Something has to be done. And, one of the things that keeps coming up, and I would have to turn to engineering for this question, the synchronization of the stoplights. Can we not stop that after like 9 o'clock in the evening so that there's not a straight shot for people to be driving? Speed bumps keep coming up, and I know that engineering, you've responded to that idea in the negative before, but we've got to start doing some things. I am hearing every day, 2-3 times a day, and I'm assuming others are too. It's a quality of life issue, it's a safety issue. We've got to do something.
Commissioner Strand?
Thank you. I have a couple questions. I'm just curious, this whole idea of how do we and who do we hold accountable? Like say if I go down to a garage and I have a local garage, tint my windows so dark that it's beyond statute. Who's responsible? Are there ways we can have the garages and the service providers not contribute to or allow people to do illegal modifications, to their vehicles, or like a muffler? Can't we also incorporate them into our mix so that at least we know when you go down there, they're not going to contribute to the community problem? That's my first question.
Take that. Go ahead. So the answer would be, can we regulate businesses in the city of Fargo? Yes, but I think the issue is going to be that most of these people who are modifying this is not from the city of Fargo. The tinted windows, the mufflers, a lot of them are being ordered online, and the people are just doing it themselves, or they're going elsewhere.
But at least it messages out there, this isn't allowable, it's not legal, and you can't do this in our city. That's just a thought, because what's going to happen? Here's what's going to happen, and you know this, Chief, better than we do. One of these days, one of these racing cars is going to run over a kid. Mm-hmm. And then what are we going to do? And then we're going to go, well, why didn't we address this earlier? And what are our options at that point in time? Because it's going to happen.
Right. 100% agree with all of the comments, and we are moving as quickly as we can to get a team out there, but also to augment as much as we can with additional traffic enforcement. But I really think our top priority is to help bring some bite and deterrence to what's going on, because the way this really works is when there's no deterrent factor, there's groups of people over here that are going to violate the law no matter what. There's groups of people over here that will never violate the law, and then there's all these people in the middle. When the people in the middle see the people over here continuing to do all of this, and virtually with impunity, because there's really no penalty, they can flee, and they don't have much options to address that, and they can do all these other things. More people in the middle are over here. And so the importance of deterrence and having a significant penalty for those that don't follow the law, I think, is extremely important in this very big public safety traffic issue. We have been talking about this for 3 years, and Not that it makes anyone feel any better, but it's an issue at a national level. Every city is dealing with this in different iterations. But just from a 1 year, and again, I know it's a smaller community, but what they did in Colorado in one city has at least either pushed it somewhere else or they've held some people accountable. So short term, we are doing everything that we can. And we're certainly open to suggestions if there's something that we haven't thought of, but we're trying to do what we can with those resources. But I think we really got some long-term issues that would require some good partnerships and support from our state legislative delegation, I think, who would hopefully be open to some of this because, at the end of the day, maybe in the past or in some of the rumblings, I think there might have been a view that we're just trying to make more revenue for the city. This is not a revenue-making scheme. This is about some dangerous behavior that we are trying to better regulate, and we need some more tools to do it. And we may be just a little bit different than other parts of the state in that need, but we still have to have some ability to do so. Otherwise, more people in the middle are going to go in this direction. So I think the fleeing, the fine issue, and I think having a serious discussion about these nuisance vehicles would be impactful. Because I think for some of these folks, until they lose their vehicle, they probably aren't going to get the message, but at least we got the ability to work through that. And there's other things that go along with that. That's a larger discussion. But these first couple of things, I don't think are as difficult as they should be anyway to get across the finish line and help our folks out. So when we got the team out there, now they've got all these other avenues as well. So I think really the focus in presenting this info was to give you all the options we could think of and ask the commission to consider those, and maybe we have some future discussions about what type of legislative efforts we want to support and work on, while at the police department level, we'll continue to figure out what we can do on enforcement.
What the commission would like is recommendations from Ian and yourself to go to the state legislative body. What the commissioners would all have to commit to is that's going to take politicking to get it done. Oftentimes it was the comment the chief said that you're just trying to make money. It has nothing to do with that. A lot of the smaller towns don't like bigger fines because they think it picks on high school kids or other kids. So the reality is politically, National League of Cities, we'd have to work with different people to come up with reasonable solutions. People sometimes feel that if you do photograph of license who is breaking the law and then go to the owner and say, here's your fine, they feel that's type of violation to their personal liberties. So John, on some of those issues, it would take us all getting involved to say, in Fargo, this isn't working, and we have an urban issue versus in small communities. So it may be just arguing, okay, if you're a city this size, then you can enhance your fines or do something different. So we should talk to our lobbyists about this, come up with some recommendations. And I think the commission as a whole would like to see what you recommend maybe in 30 days, so then we can start to proliferate that and take it to the legislative partner. Commissioner Colpel.
Yeah, so I would ask that we come back with specific recommendations, the two of you, that address these local ordinance possibilities for more control, wherever that can be improved in the immediate, and then longer term, to your point, Mayor. I've been meeting with several area legislators the last couple of months as well on a number of issues, but they are very much open to us having regular conversations, and I've had this conversation with Mr. Redlinger as well. More frequent conversations between the city commission and our area legislators, talking about specific issues collectively to help improve, the issues that the citizens of Fargo care about. And that needs to happen sooner than later, as well as building out, working with Terry, the agenda for the next legislative session. But I would hope that starts sooner than later and not wait for the fall.
Mr. Stern.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm glad you mentioned the National League of Cities, because we're not alone. And you indicate this, it's everybody. But here's what I'm hearing at the National League of Cities. Flock cameras, license plate readers, step up our technology. We need to budget technology enhancements so that we can help your departments address these community needs. And drones, 911 response drones, that's what I'm hearing at the National League of Cities. And you need a green light from us to say, okay, we're open to technology. Given we have staff shortages, we have to depend on technology, or we get to. So I would welcome you, and I'll help lead that way if I'm around. to address these issues of technology with our budgeting so we can have a safer community.
Commissioner Preston.
I want to echo Commissioner Kolpak's comment here. We really want to see some specific recommendations for local ordinances that could be beefed up or changed or enhanced, as well as any other kind of local initiatives, if it comes from engineering or whatever. We've got to be able to respond. I am sick and tired, frankly, of trying to explain this to the public.
We'd be ready to present that at the next commission meeting.
Okay.
We don't need 30 days.
Sounds good.
Very good. Any other discussion? Thank you, Chief. Thanks
Thank you.
again. Recommendation to reduce speed limit on 52nd Avenue South from I-29 to Cheyenne River from 45 miles per hour to 40 miles an hour effective June 18th, 2024. Tom Knockvis to explain.
Good evening again. This request to evaluate this corridor actually came from adjacent business and resident of Fargo. And so we kind of brought it through our process for evaluation. Just a little bit of context in this area. You can see the various speed limits that we have on our arterial roads in the southwest metro area of Fargo. The area that we're talking about is 52nd Avenue, the red line there, from I-29 over to Cheyenne, which is currently posted 45 miles per hour. It'd be our proposal to modify this to 40 miles per hour. And so this did go through the Traffic Technical Advisory Committee last week and comes with a unanimous recommendation to adjust from 45 to 40 on 52nd Avenue South from I-29 to Cheyenne.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second,
Any discussion?
I have a question.
Commissioner Preston.
Since you're up there, Tom, can you go back to the previous slide? So how are these assigned? Veterans Boulevard is 35, and then just about everything else is 40 on that southwest section of town. And then there's a 35 way down there, and I don't know what street that is.
Yeah, east of the interstate, we see a lot more 35 and 30, and I would say it comes to be that a lot of that has a lot more residential adjacent to, and I think that shifts a little bit as we go west of the interstate. But here's one thing I'll offer. This was a conversation between Jeremy Gordon and myself in our office today about looking at scheduling something with West Fargo, the county, Horace, and kind of having that regional conversation about speed limits on our arterials. And so my intention is that's a conversation that we will be having and may likely be bringing some changes from that conversation back to the city commission.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you. Roll call vote.
Strand,
Yes.
Preston,
Aye.
Kolpak,
Aye.
Pepcorn,
No.
Mahoney,
Aye. Recommendation to direct Assistant City Administrator to report back to City Commission in 2 weeks with a summary of policy and ordinance recommendations to manage encampments on public property to allow with a housing first philosophy. Brenda?
Mr. Chair, can I start?
Yeah, you can start. Is Brenda here? Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I didn't see at the podium. Commissioner Kolpak.
Sure, thank you. Yep, I brought this forward following a number of public comments at the last meeting and emails since and conversations with constituents about the concerns of the expansion of encampments, both north and south on the Red River. And so I needed more clarification of updates that internally conversations were happening after the closure of the warming availability at the engagement center after the winter. And to that end, understanding that there were a number of conversations internally with several departments participating. Two of mine were solid waste and the fire department as part of those conversations. But that there really needs to be a directive about really getting serious about what are to answer the questions of the two speakers who were at the last meeting, and they specifically asked for a reply and response. So part of that was in response to that request. Secondarily, that it requires a directive to work, the city administrator to work with the city attorney to come back. And 2 weeks was a reasonable time period after talking to Ms. Derrick. And the summary would include a policy and ordinance recommendations, too, that would be impacted to manage encampments on public property, but aligned with our housing first philosophy. And I know we haven't officially adopted what that final philosophy and that plan is, but I just want us to be really clear on the authority of the city and then have a discussion and final consideration for recommendations and approval.
And Commissioner Strand, you had some concerns about this. So there's some modifications of that recommendation you'd like to recommend?
No, I don't have any modifications. I'm glad we're having this conversation, that the community is expecting it of us. I just, and I'm assuming this, but I can't assume things. I'm guessing our DEC and our public health and our Jan Eliason and Chandler and their entire team will be front and center in this process. I would expect that.
Absolutely. We're working with the Engagement Center along with parks, because when you go up and down the river corridor, there is a mixture of Fargo-owned property along with Parks-owned property. And so to make sure, as we work with our leadership and Parks is working with their leadership, that we would have everything in place, that it wouldn't matter which property you're on, you could handle the situation exactly the same way.
Do you have a motion?
So moved.
Sorry, Commissioner Preston?
Yeah, I have a question. I will second it, and then if I can ask a question. Can the adoption of the Housing First philosophy be part of this effort? I think we need to get that on the table and get it approved so that we can start to move forward on that particular concept.
I can work with harms reduction and the engagement center.
Okay, sounds good.
Commissioner Pipcorn?
So just so we clarify this, so if we allow camping on park property and the city public property, that's for everybody. And so if we allow camping, that's going to be for everybody, not just certain people. Is that correct?
It's actually to manage the camping. We'd rather not have them on public property.
So anyway, I just want to clarify, if your backyard goes to, let's say, the river, if we change these rules and allow camping, then anybody in the public can be able to camp in your backyard. That's how it will be. You can't discriminate saying some people.
No, Commissioner Pipcorn, but the idea is that they don't allow camping on public property. That's what's happening now, is we don't have a policy. So the idea is to have a policy like many cities have adopted, and you don't have people in the public space.
But I think it's very important to clarify that we don't discriminate, that this is for everybody. And the concern is, like Lindenwood has campgrounds, you have showers, you have bathrooms. If you don't have that, then you have public health issues. So that's the main thing that I hope we focus on. But if I had a backyard that faced the river, if we allow camping, which is what we're talking about, then anybody in the public can camp in your backyard. So just be prepared for that. I do think that's a concern. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I just want to clarify, I'm asking for an objective review of the current ordinances and for the recommendations to come back for consideration and discussion as a commission. I'm not saying I have a position on this yet until I have the factual information of what those recommendations would be.
So, Mr. Chair, so just to clarify, well, now somebody has told the park district to no longer remove encampments. So there are people camping along the river right now. That's being allowed. Isn't that correct? Well, anyway, so there are encampments now. Yes, there are. And so what I'm saying is, if we allow those, then everybody should be able to camp.
Yeah, Commissioner Pipcorn, the problem is we have no rules. So the problem is, yes, people are camping in the wrong places. So the idea is to look into ordinances that you can do that are legal, that we can look at, that we should adopt. But because we have no ordinance, we can't ask people to move off certain spaces. So the idea is research it, bring it back to us, tell us the extent of it is. Right now, nobody's being moved out of their campsites because the river is up and people are forced to come to higher ground. But the idea is is what is our ordinance and what is our stance. Commissioner Colbeck's asking for a clarification of that so the commission can decide what we want to allow or not allow. You are very right. In certain park spaces, there is camping allowed, but we want to talk about in those public spaces. You're welcome. Any other discussion? I have a first and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Colpack.
Aye.
Preston. Strand.
Yes.
Pepcorn.
Aye.
Mahoney.
Aye. Liaison assignments. I'll start with Commissioner Pepburn.
No update, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Preston.
You know, as part of being on this commission, what's been fun is understanding and discovering some of the new things that are happening in the community. I had the opportunity when you were gone for a week or so to go to a basketball game, 3 of them actually, a new league in town called Jungle League, and they're meeting up in a new basketball complex and volleyball complex, which I did not know existed. 3 different games, 6 teams. They all had pretty creative names, but it was really fun to watch. The passing, the dribbling, the shooting, everything was just real good entertainment. So, and they play every Sunday night, and I believe it was free admission last Sunday, and I'm assuming that's probably the case from here on out. So I'd encourage anybody to check them out.
Did they let you go to the half court and shoot a basket? Yeah. We had the Fargo Marathon last weekend, and it was a success. 40% more people came. Again, I want to thank all our people in Public Works, Police, Fire, everybody that participated. Again, I was told that it was very well received, and people did a great job. Miss Mark Knutson, but it was just very well handled. And again, we get marks for that. Commissioner Kolbeck.
Yep, I have 2 updates today, vector control and the water treatment plant. So it's, as you can tell, it's been an extremely rainy spring and keeping the staff at the Cass County Vector Control very busy. And vector control employees have completed more than 4,100 site inspections in Fargo as they work to deter mosquito breeding. In May of 2024, they logged 300 more field hours than May of 23, a 22% increase. So for this season, the counts for mosquito traps have not prompted aerial spraying, but in the coming weeks, mosquito conditions are likely to worsen, and Vector Control has expedited training to get more employees in the field to apply pesticide. So thank you for your hard work in Vector Control. Appreciate the update. And water utility, the Fargo water system met, again, all EPA drinking water regulations in 2023. The EPA requires water systems to provide an annual water quality report to residents, and you'll see a postcard coming with that link so you can download the report and read it. And the cover of the report features this photo of water plant operators Josie Bitson and Zach Fosen holding Fargo's back-to-back best tasting drinking water awards. Like, we can never talk about that enough, in North Dakota for 2022 and 2023. So congratulations.
And we're a national competition for the best water of the United States out in Anaheim, California, and we'll hear this week. Commissioner Strad.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll just anecdotally share some, it takes a while for us to get used to new ways of doing things, and recently I've had a couple instances of issues coming my way to us with regard to immigrants and refugees and new Americans and their needs. And in both instances, I've been gratified. We've enhanced our DEI department. We have another staff person supporting Dr. Hogan. He has an intern now. And I'll just say this, I'm glad that in these instances, we have a DEI department to connect our citizens to, to remember that we have an advocate in our community that will help folks that are new to our community, that don't understand our cultures the way we do, having grown up here. And Dr. Hogan, and they've just done a really good job the last few weeks with some issues I've taken to them. And I need to remember, first thing to do is to go to our DEI department rather than in the one instance, 2 years later.
And June 19th is at the Broadway Square this week, right?
It's coming up.
On Saturday. Resident comments. I think you're all aware of the rules. Brown at it, 2.5 minutes to comment, maximum 30 minutes total. Noah Spearling is up first. Noah? Noah Spearling, Sumaya Abakar,
I stand before you today to address a matter of profound significance not only to us as individuals, but to our entire community. Recently, a decision was made to ban our ability to bring signs and posters to meetings. However, it's not surprising because we've been vocal about discussing the genocide in Palestine, and the timing doesn't seem to be a coincidence. I'm here to implore you to reconsider this restriction and to advocate for a more just and humane stance, one that calls for a ceasefire resolution. Signs and posters are not mere pieces of paper. They are powerful tools of expression and solidarity. So when we bring signs about the genocide in Palestine, we are not merely holding up cardboard. We are lifting the voices of those who cannot speak for themselves. We are showcasing the suffering and the humanity of those caught in violence and oppression. By restricting this form of expression, you are not only silencing us, but also silencing the cries of countless innocents who rely on our advocacy for their plight to be acknowledged. How can we, in good conscience, deny our community the means to raise awareness about an ongoing genocide? Every day, women, men, and children in Palestine endure unimaginable suffering. They are not just statistics in a faraway land. They are human beings with hopes, dreams, and the same inherent rights to life and dignity that we too cherish. By taking away our ability to bring signs and posters, you are not only limiting our freedom of expression, but also diminishing our collective humanity. Can you not feel an ounce of guilty, knowing that in silencing us, you are inherently perpetuating the silence that surrounds their suffering? History will judge us by our words, but by our actions, inactions, and in the face of injustice. So in closing, I leave you with the words of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who once said, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." The plight of the Palestinian people is our plight because it tests our commitment to the principles of justice and human rights. Let us not be complicit in the violence and throughout genocide. I urge you all to call for an immediate ceasefire.
Heidi Solomon. You know the rules, guys.
So maybe you might not realize, but we really do appreciate you guys being here every 2 weeks and sitting in these seats and doing your job as commissioners and mayor of the city of Fargo. So we want you to know that we do appreciate your presence here, that we know that you are elected, and we are looking forward to the upcoming elections as well. So I just wanted to make sure that you guys had that idea that we appreciate you being here, and it's something that is important for our city, including the rest of the people that are here that support the city in itself. The other aspect is that with that appreciation, it makes me wonder if you thought about how it might seem to those of us when you banned flags and signs. Haven't there been flags and signs here before? What does that look like to those of us here? To me, it looks like it could be Islamophobia. It could be racism. I hope that you think about that a little bit and what that looks like to your city, that it's supposed to be welcoming to all faiths, to all people, to all voices. So last 2 weeks ago, I mentioned Isra, and Isra is from Gaza. She's a friend of ours, and she had asked for you guys to hear this I don't know if I'll have time for the whole thing. We'll do the next part in 2 weeks. But basically, she says, I am Isra Abed from northern Gaza. I have a deep story like the rest of those in Gaza. Every wall, street, or window in which we have memories and unforgettable moments suddenly turned without warning into rubble and blood. No child, woman, or elderly person was spared from the mob hysteria to destroy people. I don't know where to start, she says, from the moments when my family's home was targeted several times to the news of my mother's martyrdom. Her mother was killed. For several kilometers, the streets were teeming with death everywhere. We do not know how many times we have been displaced, sometimes by a tent and sometimes by destroyed walls. My daughter, Colleen, several months old, smells like gunpowder. This is why we are here. This is why we come, because of the stories like this, Israel.
Allison Slavic.
All right. It's frustrating to see that the public is only allowed to comment on a select few agenda items, but not the ones that really matter. Rather than rudely ignoring my request to comment, the mayor could have had a little respect and decorum and simply answered with the reason. So I guess I'll take just a moment out of my prepared speech to say that your decision to send Fargo police officers to the Republican National Convention is very problematic, as Milwaukee has already established that they will suspend their standard operating procedure, which includes the use of body cameras. It's been shown that peaceful protests typically turn violent after the police are present. So what do the police plan to do that should warrant a suspension of body cameras at a partisan political event? How can this not be seen as inherently political? And you want to take away from our local needs to send police to a political event. Thank you, Kolpak, for your no vote. Anyway, I digress, because last weekend, soldiers from Israel and the United States disguised themselves in a humanitarian aid truck and entered Gaza using the port that we built that was meant for aid. They went to the Nuseirat refugee camp, where in just 10 minutes they killed at least 274 Palestinian men, women, and children in order to retrieve 4 hostages. Nearly 700 others were injured, some in critical condition, as hospitals are already struggling to cope with the flow of wounded and dead bodies. I personally witnessed on social media a young child being carried into the hospital with his scalp nearly detached, dangling off the back of his head. I saw a father with his hand blown off. I saw families crying and wailing in the streets because all of their children were murdered. But what about the hostages? There are dozens of Israelis who have been all but abandoned by their government, being used as an excuse to murder more than 40,000 people and counting. But what about Israelis who have been calling for a ceasefire? No one talks about them or gives them media coverage. And now you're trying to censor us too, taking away our signs. My question to you is why? What threat are the peacemakers? What have we done to constitute your reaction? There have been no weapons and no aggression, besides one questionable claim from one Zionist, and none of us witnessed such a thing. You're censoring of us when you could be speaking up about $2 million from Fargo taxes being sent to fund the killing of innocent men, women, and children. Here's what that money could fund instead. 242 households with public housing for a year. 711 children could receive free or low-cost health care. 22 elementary school teachers could have their salaries covered. And 54 students could have their school loan debt canceled.
Olivia Fisher. Olivia Fisher is going to be virtual. Olivia, are you online?
Yep, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Time starts now.
Hi, my name is Olivia, and I'm a Fargo resident and have lived in North Dakota my entire life. I love the Fargo community and have met some wonderful people here, but I'm speaking today because you claim that those very people and I are a threat to your safety. It seems that some of you have never considered how unsafe you make all of us feel. How am I supposed to feel safe in a city where our own mayor cannot condemn a genocide? How are any of us supposed to trust that you have our best interest in mind when you seem to have no concern over the fact that children in Gaza are being bombed? Over 3,000 children have lost one or more limbs. They are not safe sheltering in hospitals or schools, and now they cannot even trust that aid trucks are actually there to help them. If you don't care about them, I don't see how you could possibly care about any of us or our safety. While I'm on that note, I would like to request a written response from Tim, Denise, and John for the following questions. What are the direct actions we have done that have supposedly made you feel unsafe enough to gleefully take away our rights to express ourselves at these meetings? It is so shameful that while all of us are witnessing nonstop horrific massacres every single day, you can't stand to read a few signs every other week. Your feelings of discomfort don't even compare to the trauma people in Gaza are facing. A recent report noted at least 42 different types of inhumane torture forced upon civilians by Israeli forces in literal concentration camps. They are being forcibly detained, beaten until their bones are broken, raped, tattooed against their will, deprived of sleep, and viciously attacked by dogs, just to name a few things. So I don't think anyone in that room wants to hear about how you feel uncomfortable. Being unapologetically complicit in a genocide is not humane, and you should feel awfully uncomfortable with your decisions. Because while you sit back right now, likely counting down the minutes until public comment is over, Palestinian members of our community are grieving and traumatized. While you think about what you're going to eat for dinner tonight, families in Gaza are starving to death. People are being murdered on our dime because of ignorance like yours, and the death toll will only increase so long as you do not do your part and call for a ceasefire. You have had over 8 months to educate yourselves, and it is embarrassing that you're still failing to take action. The longer you wait, the louder we will get. You cannot and will not silence us. Palestine will one day be free whether you choose to fight for their liberation or not, but you will forever be remembered for your inaction if you do not change your mind. Free Palestine.
We've all been respectful of each other. I would ask you to please respect the rules of this chamber. We don't stand up and clap and cheer. And Faith Dixon, you comment when other people comment. You should allow them to speak with respect. So let's be respectful. We are now adjourned.